The kings of Denmark and Sweden were definitely pissed that Olaf had been messing around with their sisters, and Denmark definitely did not want to pay Tira's dowry, so they united with rebel Norwegians and set a trap for Olaf. Olaf was just sailing along with his boys, apparently without a care in the world, because his fleet was not prepared for battle or in any sort of formation when they sailed oblivious past the massed Swedes and Danes. Olaf, after the Vikings changed sides, had 11 ships with him. The opposing force had over 70. Or maybe Olaf had 60 ships, then 11 Viking ships against a larger combined force. Hard to say. Maybe Olaf was being led into an ambush by his Wendish allies. It's also one of the stories. In his favour, Olaf was commanding one of the legendary ships of history, the Ormen Lange, or Long Serpent, said to be the finest ship ever made in Norway. One thing the stories agree on is that by the time the battle started, Olaf had 11 ships with him. On the other side, the rebel Norwegian Jarl Erik had an iron-plated longship fitted with an iron ram, which definitely deserves the attention it received. So a huge fleet wanting Olaf's blood is watching as he sails past, and the Allied leadership is waiting to see Long Serpent so they can get at him. Eventually, they saw they had their man and began the attack. There's some thinking that if Olaf had turned and run, he'd have had a decent chance, but instead he offered character assessments of the Swedes and the Danes. Firstly, of the Danes, the forest goats will not overcome us, for the Danes have the courage of goats. We will not fear that force, because the Danes have never carried off the victory if they fought on ships. Then of the Swedes. The Swedes will have an easier and more pleasant time licking out their sacrificial bowls than boarding the Long Serpent in the face of our weapons and succeeding in clearing our ships. I expect that we will not need to fear the horse eaters. And it's impressive, albeit unlikely, that anyone took down his words and survived the battle to relay them. To add to his arrogance, Olaf is supposed to have chained his ships together as the Swedes and Danes rushed towards him, making a floating fortress, but also losing the value of his ships as, well, ships. Massively outnumbered and having robbed himself of the possibility of manoeuvre, Olaf's ships were painfully and bloodily cleared through the course of the battle until just Long Serpent was holding out, its high sides allowing murderous archery against the attackers. Eventually, Olaf either threw himself in the water or disappeared in a flash of light, or more likely just died with a spear in his guts, but his body was never found. There are legends that he will return one day to rescue Norway, but it's been 1,000 years so far, and we're still waiting to see this.